Okay, it's recording. Guys, I'm talking about a budget. Anyone who is reasonably sensible with their money at least thinks about it. The budget is just a financial plan. All it is a plan of how you're going to spend your money. If it comes to big companies, they spend millions of dollars. Teams of accountants who do all sorts of interesting things, or not interesting, maybe, and work out where to spend, what to spend it on, how it's going to work, putting it all together, work out how they're going to spend their money. And it's all to do with a budget is balancing your expenses and your income. Essentially, that's what it is. And so there's a few terms that we need to make sure. Expenses. Income is what you get paid. When your expenses are equal to your income, the budget is balanced. Okay, so it's terminology. Balancing the budget, that's what it means. That what you spend is equal to what you receive. Now, balancing a budget, it doesn't mean that you have to spend every cent you have. You can balance a budget by working out where your expenses are and then also putting some money to savings. Alright, so that you have, you spend up to, you earn $1,400 a fortnight or something. You work out that you need to spend $1,000 a fortnight on different things, and then that extra $400 you put into savings. So that's balancing the budget. So desired. Alright, so simple budget, you just have two columns. You have one for income, one for expenses. Just out of interest, does everyone here do a budget? Budget for money, no? Okay. I have sort of a chart in here, but even if it's just an estimate and a rough plan, it's good to it does help you to direct and to think about what money you have. It's very saves you from being haphazard and spending it all. Okay? So you can create a simple budget by having two columns, one for expenses, one for income, and then see if it all matches up. So a favorite program to do this on, of course, is Windows Excel. Spreadsheet program. Excel is quite an amazing program, actually. It does all sorts of things, but obviously budgeting is one of its main uses. And then you get all sorts of accounting software, things that are developed specifically for this purpose. Alright, so we'll just pick that up there. So let's have a look at this. Bill earns $23,000 a year from his job, whatever job that is. And he also does some odd jobs around his neighborhood for which he earns $300 a week. Each week he spends $50 on fuel, $100 on food, $65 on insurance, $250 on rent, and $50 on going out. Make up a weekly budget for Bill. Well, we need to make up a weekly budget. So we need to work out his weekly income first. Weekly income. How are we going to work out his weekly income based on his yearly income? Divided by 52. Good. So 23,000 divided by 52. That is equal to. Alex, could you find that for me, please? 442. Good. Yeah, that's cool. So we're going to put that into our little budget that we have here. Okay, so I'm going to put income, the different categories you put in. So job, and then I'm going to put odd jobs. I might put odd. So I'm going to put dollar amounts here. So we have his job, he gets $442.30. And then 300 odd jobs. Yeah, and then expenses, we just go down and put it in. So you put different categories, fuel, we've got food, insurance, rent, and $50 for going out. Alright, and you just put in the dollar amounts. So we have $50 for fuel, $100 on food, 65 on insurance, 250 for rent, and 50 for going in. Well, okay, and that's a basic budget. Just decided what you spend, planning it, you know, you've written it down, you know what your income is, so you are aware of where your money is going. Yeah, and then of course you can total it at the bottom, and you can see where the balance is. So that's 742.30. 515. Right, so right now he's doing well. His expenses are a bit less than his income. So he's got $200 and something that he can save on a weekly basis. So what is room to move within his budget. Okay? Now, we just also need to be aware of a couple of things. And so, well, if we're asked to balance this budget, it just means we could add a row saying savings and put in the excess, which would mean the savings or expenses equal to income. Alright, well, that's just balance the budget simply means making expenses equal to income. And some things that we need to know, some expenses are fixed. They're fixed expenses, the things you can't change. For example, if you've got a house and you have a mortgage, you can't change your repayments. So as much as you wish you could reduce them or anything, they won't change. Can't do it. Same with rent. If you agreed on your rent, you have to pay that on a weekly or fortnightly basis. You can't change it. Insurance premiums, typically, you can't change it unless you want to get rid of the insurance. In that sense, it's not fixed. You can choose not to have insurance. But if you want the insurance, you have to pay a premium amount, which is fixed. It doesn't change to your life. You can't reduce it. Other expenses can be adjusted to not fixed, or you can change your habit. So if you ate lentils every day, your food expenses would be very low. I think if they get a big bag of lentils, you could boil up for about $3, that can feed you for a week. Some people in the world really like it, right? You know, or you could decide you're going to use your car less. I'm going to walk instead of using my car, which means your fuel bill is going to go down. Food is not fixed. Going out is not fixed. You can choose not to go out. You choose to stay at home and not see a movie or whatever. So those things are not fixed. Some things are fixed. Terminology we need to be aware of. And that's basically it for budgets. Putting together balancing the expenses and the income. Now, what are Bill's fixed expenses? What are his fixed expenses? Yeah, insurance and that's it, basically. Fuel you can change. But then again, in some cases maybe you can't change fuel because of the situation. You have to get to your job by driving. So there's some sort of grey areas in this, but generally speaking, things to do with where you live, insurance, those sort of things fixed. Other things outside of that aren't so fixed. Okay, so what are Bill's fixed expenses? They are insurance and okay, so that's basically it. Now before you go on with the exercises, 3.7 is to do with budgeting, 3.8 is to do with bills. Now, it's very difficult for me to put up a bill on here and say, oh, this is how you read a bill, because different companies have different sorts of bills. Alright? So just do 3.8. I'm sure you'll be able to manage. If you have questions specifically from the exercise, just ask me and I can go through some of the things. But basically you're just finding information about previous months, this month, dates, how much the person paid, how much they may be due next month, estimates, all those sort of things are information on the bill. So you don't have to write this, just got to think here. Bills tell you how much you spent this month, and also compares this month's amount with previous months. So typically on a water bill, it will say this quarter you spent this much, last quarter you used this much. An electricity bill, it says this quarter you spent this much, last quarter you used this much electricity. They're just comparing quarter to quarter or month to month. And then different companies format their bills differently, so you need to be used to reading information from them. Bills are just part of life. You get them more and more that it's all known. 3.7, 3.8. And any questions about previous work as well, please let me know. Okay?